Na minha missão de falar sobre investimentos nos Estados Unidos e também de mostrar para vocês como que é o mundo acadêmico e profissional, eu decidi trazer o Dr. Aguirre comigo e ele vai falar um pouquinho para vocês, né, do que ele conhece sobre investimentos, que já tem mais tempo que ele investe do que eu, e também do mundo profissional aqui nessa área, né. Eu tenho um clube de investimentos aqui na faculdade, né, e eu já pedi para ele uma vez ir lá no clube e apresentar pra gente, falar um pouco, né, do que ele conhece sobre o mercado financeiro, sobre investimentos e também sobre empreendedorismo, marketing e outros assuntos. Para falar de algumas coisas que ele já fez, né? Ele fez o bacharel dele na USC, ele também fez o mestrado dele na Woodbury, e nesse meio tempo aí ele teve um restaurante aí por um tempo, né? Depois ele foi fazer o doutorado dele na Claremont Graduate, que inclusive a faculdade que eu tô querendo transferir é lá nesse campus, né? Junto com a que ele tá fazendo o mestrado, o doutorado dele, né? E aqui ele é professor e também ele é chair do departamento de Business Administration aqui. Dr. Aguirre, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for inviting me to speak. Thank you.
Professor, when did you realize that you wanted to start investing?
You know, I think when I first found interest investing and I realized that I should was after high school in community college. Once I started learning about business and I taking some business courses, I realized that, wow, there's a lot of opportunity. There's this whole other way of making income and building wealth that I never had been exposed to before. So it was right after high school as a community college student.
That's very nice, because the greatest investor in Brazil, he started investing when he was 28, and now he's a billionaire. He's in 2020 he made $1 million in dividends per day, and he started to invest when he was 28. So he started investing in community college. So it's what 18 to 21, that age?
Approximately, yeah, that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Now, second question: what do you like to invest in? What's kind of your philosophy when you're investing?
You know, it's a good and tough question, because I'm not necessarily heavy duty practitioner, right? I've had many different interests throughout my life. I many times put myself in the shoes some of the students and people we teach, where it's, well, while I found interest in investing a long time ago, you know, almost half of my life ago, I didn't necessarily know or learn enough back then to understand how I should have been applying it. So over the years, I've tried different things to that end. Part of it was trying to be as an entrepreneur, sometimes as a full-time effort, and sometimes an entrepreneur as a part-time or side effort. And I've still tried a couple different things in general. Investments, for example, it could be real estate, it could be retirement accounts. I've also dabbled in different kind of direct investments, meaning like researching and picking different stocks or options. So I'm still learning as I go along, and I've learned a lot of different lessons along the way. But in general, I strongly believe that there's an importance to being diversified and thinking long term.
What would you say are 3 tips for people that are starting to invest? So they barely know investments. They just heard it maybe a couple months before. They're starting to put their feet in the water. What would be the 3 tips that you would give to a person like that?
First and foremost is learning to budget and save, because budgeting and saving almost an investment in itself. You're learning to delay gratification now by budgeting and saving so you can have something to invest for the long term in the future. So really understanding and learning to live within your means as a way of making income or cash flow. What do I mean by that? Sometimes if we can delay our gratification and live within our means, that's practically like having another form of income or a second job, right? Because otherwise you would spend it and you would have to work to make up that money. But if you at least budget and save, you will bring in some income, which is ultimately part of the goal, right? So that's one tip, really focusing on budgeting, saving, because that's usually people's biggest challenge. And the other tip, I think that most of us, from those who are just starting to learn, even those who are much more knowledgeable, and I say much more, I say it general on purpose because that's very relative, right? How knowledgeable you are. But also, I think this is important for everybody, is to think about diversification, because we all come at different knowledge levels of understanding. And one of the safest bets you can make is to seek a diversified type type of funds meaning, a group of stocks, so that you can ultimately budget and save, take that money you save, invest it for the long term. That could be retirement accounts or just longer term investment accounts. And then you're just constantly and regularly applying your savings, budgeting and savings funds to a diversified fund. And you can almost do that on an autopilot mode. So whether you're going to spend a lot of time researching the market or stocks or very little, this is something that everybody should do.
Ok, I like where this is going. Pô, se você tá gostando dessa conversa até agora, não se esquece de deixar um like, se inscrever no canal e também bater no sininho lá pra você receber a mensagem, receber uma notificação sempre que tiver vídeo novo, porque eu vou querer trazer mais pessoas assim como o Dr. Aguirre, pra ele compartilhar com a gente muitos princípios aí que ele tem da vida, dos investimentos, dos empreendimentos que ele teve, né? Okay, now this question may take you longer to answer because it's kind of a two-in-one. What are the 3 tips for a person that is starting a business? I'd like also to comment about the restaurant, because you had a restaurant. I think it will be very, very nice.
Okay. 3 tips for people to start a business. I think first and foremost is you've really got to be willing to understand yourself and be critical of yourself. Because for most entrepreneurs, the majority who are starting a business, we are the business with our own personal strengths and weaknesses. By you understanding your personal strengths and weaknesses, you can better analyze. You got to be honest with yourself, what you like and what you don't like, what you can do, what you can't do. You don't have to start a business by yourself, but by analyzing and understanding and being critical of yourself, you can see where your strengths and weaknesses are, and you can decide to bring a partner depending on the type of business. Tip 1 is really understand yourself and don't try to fight it. If your ability and knowledge in entrepreneurship and what you're doing is limited, then you start with a smaller business that you can handle. If it's much more advanced, then you also have a better idea of how much more you can handle and deal with and compete against, right? Because there's always competition. But then ultimately you can decide how to properly form the team if you have to go outside of yourself. So getting to know what you like, what you don't like is first and foremost important. Another tip has to do with being really focusing on a business model. What do I mean by that? Too many inexperienced entrepreneurs put too much value in their idea. Everybody has ideas. Everybody's probably thought of your same idea 10 times. But ultimately, your business model about how are you going to execute your idea or your opportunity, I should say, because ultimately an entrepreneur has to go from idea to opportunity. How are you going to execute your opportunity? How is it going to meet the needs and interest of you and your ability as an entrepreneur, but also as for the customer? So for example, coming up with an excellent tasting pastry in and of itself is not a business model, but it's how are you going to produce it at the right level or price range to get customers to actually part with their hard-earned money for that product. What is ultimately the value? So really understanding yourself, understanding the business model of how you're going to go about and do it, and to provide value for the customer. And I think the third tip is always be willing to learn. I think that the definition of entrepreneur should include and say an entrepreneur is someone who is always willing to learn. People do get lucky in small business and entrepreneurship. Now the question is, can they maintain it? And then the other question is really understanding how people got to that. There's a lot of great stories of people dropping out of college and starting business and making a lot of money. That is possible, but most likely, in my opinion, when people find that success early on, many times it's because they've already been learning 20 years since they were kids. They had great mentors they probably called mom, dad, aunt, uncle. So they were closely tied to this learning journey a long time ago. Many of us aren't starting our journeys in entrepreneurship maybe into our 20s. So we might not see that success until, if we stay on that journey, maybe until we're 40. For example, statistically speaking, most entrepreneurs tend to be around the age of 40 and find success because they've been on that journey of learning and developing as entrepreneurs for a good 20 years. And it's not an overnight thing or something that would have been proper for someone to just drop out of college to expose it because they weren't quite ready for it.
Okay, so number 1, understand yourself. Number 2, business model. Everybody has ideas. I like this sentence you said. Everybody has ideas, so you should get a business model right, or act, and always be willing to learn. Yeah, Professor, what would you say is the role of entrepreneurship and financial literacy and or investments?
Excellent. So great question. I firmly believe that financial journey, be it in investments or entrepreneurship, really starts with having cash flow or income as a career. What do I mean by that? As I mentioned before, in order to invest, you've got to be able to budget and save to have money to invest. And so your first and only, you're basically, you have two options for developing that income. One is through a career job. So creating an asset, a well-paying career, or skills to have a well-paying career job is important. It's a cash flow producing asset, your career job. As an example. For some people, that career job is small business or being an entrepreneur, having that cash flow. That is also very important and very valid. So for some people, that's how they build income. Let me clarify that a career job or owning a business or running a business is a cash flow producing asset that also can grow in value, right? If you develop your skill, your abilities, you can eventually be promoted, get raises, have more income. Same thing with your business. The better you get at it, it is possible that you'll increase your income, grow your business, and produce more. I think they go hand in hand. Now, I also believe that many ways to really advance significant generational wealth many times comes through entrepreneurship at some level. Now, can you affect and change intergenerational wealth through investing? You can, with time, money, and return on investment, or the time value of money. That's the formula of time value of money. You can do it. But many times, significant generational wealth, at least in this country, tends to come through entrepreneurship. People turn small businesses into big businesses. I believe that many times, imagine someone has career, budgeting and saving, investing, building assets, and cash flow producing assets from different means. So I mean career, let's just say a stock portfolio, a retirement account. Now, it is possible for someone to be an entrepreneur or a business owner on the side. I believe owning real estate is an example. It's not passive. Being a real estate owner, you're practically a business owner. You really got to think of it as being a business owner, because you have to actively participate in that. You can do that. If you develop the skill, you can say, well, maybe I buy a franchise and I can operate that as well. Maybe I become an investor in a business. You can develop that skill. Or at the very least, I have a side hustle, a side business that will accompany my financial journey.
Okay, so last question. Is there anything else you would say, advise, comment on any of those topics we touched today?
I think at the end of the day, on the topic of investment, entrepreneurship, and I think it's just very important to keep in mind that financial literacy is a journey. Even though I have learned about financial literacy many years ago when I was a student, community college student, even though I've taught courses, investments in personal finance, I still enjoy learning and seeking out additional information. I'll listen to podcasts on the topics whenever possible. I'll still like and enjoy reading articles about it. So I think that continued accumulating knowledge is important. But at the end of the day, I think you ultimately need to find some actionable principles to follow. Keep it simple, keep it safe, and try to follow the average. Why? That still takes time and effort and comfort to get to the comfort levels to follow. It takes time to get there. But then once you get there, if you want to take risks by all means, but at least there's something that happens kind of mentally when you at least have some safety and security. Once you kind of have that safety and security, I don't want to discourage people from trying because there are theories and great examples of, say, someone investing in companies that they really like. Like maybe someone techie is really like, I really like this idea of investing in this company called Microsoft. Or someone just really likes the idea of I cannot detach from my iPhone, and so why don't I invest in Apple. Not a bad idea, but you wouldn't want to necessarily put all your eggs in those baskets. But at the same time, don't want to discourage, someone from that. Is it possible that someone invests in XYZ company because they really like it and then eventually goes out of business? Yes, it's possible. It's a real life situation. Unfortunately, what will happen is you'll see that the majority of companies and stocks out there not perform as well as a few, but it's always hard to guess which few those are going to be. So ultimately, I think it's find actionable steps, start getting practice in doing it, and you're going to see that this works. The investment, the effort, the knowledge building, it works, but you've got to find some principles that work for you. If I left you with some other ending parting thoughts, in order to get to this knowledge and level of understanding, one of the common things I like to tease my students with is that wealth building is very possible, and it's a mathematical formula. It's not a secret. It just takes understanding. So I would encourage people to, how do you find that secret or find that formula? It's something that Albert Einstein, one of the great wonders of the world, called the time value of money. It's a formula for increasing wealth. Time value of money. Very foundational, but important to understand. The other is what a mathematician formula developed to follow the spiraling effects that happen in nature, called the Fibonacci sequence. So this is why things spiral up or could spiral down, but many times you'll hear this in finance and investments because there's a spiral, and it does tend to happen if you apply certain principles that things can double and increase at an exponential level. And in having some knowledge and understanding of those concepts will also help you better understand why it's important to plan long term, why it's important to just be consistent and active in the market, even if it's only a little bit, as opposed to just throwing darts or putting all your eggs in one basket.
Thank you so much, Professor. There's so much you said today. I'm gonna give them a little recap for us to remember. Então, o professor falou hoje de diversificação, falou de pensar no longo prazo. Ele deu 3 dicas aí pra quem tá começando a investir, né? Salvar dinheiro, né? Também saber aí das suas contas. Pensar no longo prazo, você não ter a sua gratificação agora, mas ter ela no futuro. Ele falou também da diversificação, você ter diversificação, não colocar todos os ovos na mesma cesta. Aí ele deu também 3 dicas para que você consiga começar o seu empreendimento, né? Ele falou entender você mesmo, entende a si mesmo, né? Inclusive essa é uma frase até que antiga, né? Aí ele também falou para você se atentar ao seu modelo de negócios, e ele também falou para você estar sempre atento, prestando atenção, querendo aprender mais, no caso, né? Aí depois, nas últimas considerações, ele falou novamente para você sempre estar buscando mais informação, você seguir os seus princípios e também o valor do dinheiro no tempo, né? Essas foram algumas das considerações que ele teve. Professor, you mentioned Einstein. If I'm not mistaken, Einstein has a quote regarding when you're investing. I lost the word right now. When you are investing, so compound interest. Yeah, Albert Einstein has a quote on compound interest. I've heard that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world, and also that with compound interest you either receive it or you pay it. So it's better if you receive it, right?
Great job. I mean, actually, I stand corrected. What I was referring to was more specifically compound interest. So I should have, if anything, I stand corrected. There are probably 3 principles or formulas you should consider. Compound interest is one, understand that. Time value of money, and the Fibonacci sequence. So excellent, great job. And yes, he did, I think more accurately, the 8th wonder of the world. And it's just this idea that yes, in the American system, in this country, a lot of times, unfortunately, many of us think about, and our economy many times relies on people borrowing money, using credit to extend and live outside of their means. And what that means is you're paying compound interest. So what I started saying is either, most people are either paying it out or earning it and paying it in, meaning if you're investing, you're getting a return on your interest on that interest, and that income is compounding. So in other words, if you invest, you're gaining a return on investment. That seed is producing, building on its own, and it's exponential. So your money can, depending on the situation, but on average, say your investment without you doing anything can double in 8 years. And then if you keep that investment in over time, that money that doubled will double. So now you're at 4 times of what you originally made. And then imagine all on its own without your original investment, which is your career, job, or business.
Professor, thank you so much again for the chat. I really liked it. Did you have fun?
I did, and I feel honored that you invited me to come speak on this topic. I enjoy it. So, thank you.
Nice. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Até o próximo vídeo.